People have been calling for change in Montreal over the past week or so, and one name that has surfaced as a favorite to be traded is Jake Evans, as reportedly, according to RG.org, 3 teams are monitoring his trade status. But not just that, Coach Marty sent a message today in practice, bag skating the guys, and we got quotes from Lane Hutson and Marty St. Louis himself about the effort of the team. And finally, we got an update on the Laval Rocket, who are doing way better than any of us expected. So stick around for all that on this episode of Habs Digest. And we're going to start with Laval. They haven't stopped yet, Jesse. And I know we did a minor Laval Rocket update not that long ago, just to give you guys a little insight. We talked about the goalies being great, some guys really performing well, but it hasn't stopped. Take a look at the standings. They are second in the North Division right now, and the only reason they're second is because the Marlies have a shootout loss, while the Rocket have a regulation loss. 7 games into the season, the Rocket are 6-1, and that's in large part due to their goalies, but they've been getting some scoring from multiple places. I'll let you guys pause and have a look if you want. But we got Florian Xhekaj, who has 2 goals. Adam Engstrom's been a top-pairing defenseman, but the big scorers, Alex Barré-Boulet with 8 points, Joshua Waugh with 6, including 4 goals. Mesar, he's hurt now, but he's been a point per game. But the big thing, Jesse, for Laval, I know we'll talk a bit about the forwards, but the goalies, look at those stats. 1.69 GAA, 939 save percentage for Hughes. 2.25 GAA, 910 save percentage for Dobeš. 4-0. Insane stats across the board here for Laval, Jesse. And Pascal Vincent is doing a masterful job so far.
Yeah, great work all around from the team, but these young goalies are really kind of leading the way. Connor Hughes as well, getting 2 out of 3 wins, leading for 5 straight wins right now for the Laval Rockets. So just amazing to see this team as a whole really cooking. And we really see like the situation with the goaltending, like not exactly what's happening in Montreal right now, right? I know we're kind of a long way from Dobeš maybe kind of getting a look or anything else like that. But of course, it's like we see an example not too far away, the farm team really doing it. I think just all of us as Habs fans, Josh, like, don't you want to just see Monty kind of get that fire back like he had in that first game against the Leafs?
Oh, man. Like, right now, the goalies Monty looks, I don't even know what to say. Montreal currently has the worst save percentage in the entire NHL, I think is what I saw today. It was like a 870 something save percentage with a 4.25 GAA across their 2 goalies. And Jesse, when you see stuff like this, like, I know Connor Hughes is sort of a veteran, but because he played in Europe for many years, but he's still only like 28 or something like that. And Dobeš is still young. He's a prospect. And like, at this point, like, I don't know, we're starting to get to a point in sample size where I am more and more inclined to see one of these guys, probably Dobeš, being called up. Do you think we're still too far away for that to happen? Like, I still don't think they're going to send Primeau down on waivers because I still think he'll get claimed, but part of me is thinking that if this trend continues heading towards the trade deadline, they might not mind bringing up Dobeš to be the backup for the second half of the season if they decide to move on from Primeau. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe they keep Primeau till the end of the year when there's no rush. But hey, maybe if a team shows interest, I don't think it's that crazy.
It's not that time yet, but if they continue their great play, that's what you play really well in the AHL to do, is to one day get a chance in the show. It's these young goalies' dream. We know it's one of the hardest positions to really crack in because there's not too many jobs available. So the competition is fierce. Cayden Primeau knows it. Even Samuel Montembeault knows it as well, right? He's still got that contract, but he knows he needs to keep fighting, right? So it has been a thing that's kind of brought up. We've even heard, Gibson's name from the Ducks kind of brought up in some rumors. Once again, that's kind of circling back, just all to show that there's a couple areas that this team really needs improvement. But, sometimes getting a couple of those extra saves, like Monty started great, against the Leafs in the Sens, but we really want to see that a little bit more of that kind of going forward.
Yeah, we might talk about Gibson in some future video. I don't know if he makes a ton of sense with the timeline, but I've always been a John Gibson truther. We'll have this just wait and see. But let us know your thoughts on Laval Rocket and specifically their goaltending down below. We'd love to hear from you, but we got to move on to the practice. We haven't seen this yet. We have not seen this from Marty. We've seen Marty get a little upset, Jesse, but this is another level of Marty being upset. You guys saw the bag skating at the top of the show. Marty was tearing into the guys. And after the game last night, he wasn't very happy either. And I got a quote from him that I really like here. He said, "We have a fragile group right now for sure. We're doing it to ourselves. We're putting our finger down our throat." You know what I mean? We're not talking about food poisoning. And he went on to say that, the team vomited all over themselves in the 3rd period. And today after practice, after they did all those bag skates, he said, we got to just learn the habits, And the message was sent. Nick Suzuki spoke out about it. Brendan Gallagher spoke out about it. And both of them agreed, hey, we deserved it. But Lane Hutson, Jesse, this was maybe the most mature quote to me. He said, it's always tough, but sometimes you need it. And we definitely kind of needed it. Just kind of embracing it. It sucks to have to skate and do that, get bagged, but having to go through it with all your teammates just brings you a little closer, and you realize that we're all in this together. Now, we, like I said, have not really seen this version of Martin St. Louis. Do I have the picture? I don't have the picture of Marty St. Louis. But we haven't seen him this upset. He seemed genuinely, like, filled with, like, anger last night after the game, at least more than I've ever seen. And today he sent that message in practice. I'm just waiting to see what kind of dividends this pays on Saturday night, because we don't know how the team's going to respond to this yet. They seem in good spirits, but I don't know. Are they maybe getting a little scared? Like, oh crap, wait, there is pressure.
Because we haven't seen this as much, I really like this because it makes a great point. Like Mark Dumont wrote a great article. We said, like, you don't want to overuse the bag skate, but at the right time, you're sending just a signal to your entire team. And because, St. Louis hasn't used it, that's why this is a powerful thing. And if we're looking for a turning point in the season, if the Habs to improve, we definitely need to look back to this, because this is a huge sign just to the rest of the team. And you got to love Hutson again, like being so mature. There's a reason he's getting so much ice time. He's just thinking the game. He is mature, but behind his, beyond his years. It's really not until you really accept the bag take, you embrace that maybe you kind of need to take a couple steps back, reassess, and then put in some hard and smart work to kind of really get back to where you want to go. I know there's some big conversations right now about like our defensive zone cover. Like, is it the right system, right? A lot of this all the same, though. It just comes down to hard work as well. And really kind of, we need to see that. We're going to talk about a player pretty soon who really kind of shows that for his team. But like, we've seen a couple games where we've gotten outworked. And that's where the bag skate, it's not X and O's, but it comes in handy so much. So Marty's sending a message, and we've seen like signs of this, of that tougher love. Now it's for the entire team, right? It's going to be so important to see how they react to this, because this can end up being a positive thing for this team.
Yeah, and I think Marty, again, he's still inexperienced relatively as a coach. He's not a veteran head coach. He's learning a lot of this stuff along with the guys. But the thing with Marty is that, like we saw in his hockey career, he learns things extremely fast, and seems to be learning that as a coach. We just have to give it some time. And I know people are impatient. Like the first season that we have expectations, the amount of fans calling for his head after 10 games is kind of insane. You got to give him a little bit of leeway, because also Marty's right as well. Like, the players they don't have their habits down. They're not always giving their effort 100% of the time. And that is partially on him to motivate them, to get them to do it. But at the same time, so many guys on your team, like young guys, are just not really getting in there, doing the things they need to do. That is also partially on them. So we'll have to wait and see. But I want to know what you guys think about Marty becoming a little harder on the team down below. It's very interesting to see. But the final thing, Jesse, this guy, I mean, if there's anyone that doesn't deserve to do bag skates, well, I guess there's a few guys on the team. Cole, Suzuki. I mean, look, Hutson, whatever. But we got to talk about the trade talks right now. And I did not expect to wake up to Jake Evans trade rumors this morning, but I mean, I did. An NHL source, this is linked down below, this article from RG.org. NHL source says, quote, at least 3 teams closely watching Jake Evans' strong start with the Canadiens. According to an RG source, the Canadiens are looking for a starting forward. Some of their forwards have begun appearing on early season trade boards. Canadiens have 2 of their centers, Evans and Devo, who are free agents this summer. Quote, the Canadiens have options in terms of being able to move either, but I'm hearing Jake Evans' name a lot more so far than Dvorak. The Canadiens aren't in a rush to move Evans right now, and he's excellent for them on the penalty kill. And obviously, Jesse, Jake Evans has been so good for this team. 5 points in 11 games, on pace for a career high in terms of points, and I believe goals, if I'm not mistaken, times 8. Yeah, on pace for a career high in goals and points right now. Not to mention, he's been Montreal's best defensive forward and one of their best players on the faceoff dot. Look, I understand that other teams are looking at Jake Evans. Other teams want Jake Evans. I think every team in the league should want Jake Evans. But at some point, like this article kind of goes on to say, if you want to establish your defense and you want to bring in a good right-handed defensive talent, and, this is the kind of guy you may end up having to give up for him. I'm not sold on it. I don't want to move Jake Evans, but it's very intriguing that, these talks are starting to happen.
Yeah, and you definitely have to give something of value in order, if you're getting like a very coveted top 4 right-handed defenseman with a little bit more NHL experience, which the Habs are looking for. Of course, that's definitely going to cost you something there. Absolutely. But we see, like, along with Cole Caufield, it's like Jake Evans has been one of the best, absolute best players for this team so far. And I'm sorry, RG.org, like, none of those teams can have him, because this player, he's playing with that heart and soul that this team really kind of needs every night. If you're playing with heart and soul, you know what to expect from your team that night, which I just find is so huge. But another factor kind of playing into all this, Josh, I'm sure you've heard the rumors as well. Like, there's a much greater possibility that next year Michael Hage returns to the NCAA and just continues to dominate over there. But because he's playing so well, there are, some murmurs that, he may feel that he's ready to play in the NHL at the end of the season and just want to start getting it rolling in the NHL, right? So that kind of plays into the center position because we do got a lot of young guys coming up, right? And kind of sometimes capitalizing on that value, especially in a contract year. Like, we know Devo is being traded at this point, right? But we got those young guys, but you got to feel like you want a little bit more of that still with these young guys coming in. You need to have that experience and, somebody that, at least I know he hasn't been super great on the dot this year, but again, just playing with a lot of that energy I think that this team needs. I don't know, for myself, Josh, like, we would need to get a really good return just because I'm really liking so many of the intangibles that he's really bringing to this team, especially right now.
Yeah, like in terms of talent, like, look, he's realistically a bottom six forward on a great team, but he's on every special team, right? He's on that penalty kill. He's out there, when the other team's net is empty. And other teams, though, if you have a top four defenseman, top four right D that you're looking to trade, you're probably saying, well, I need more than just your bottom six forward who's a good penalty killer. So it's kind of a give and take. Like, Montreal is not willing to give up the impact that Evans has, while other teams are saying, really? That's what you're offering me for a top four right D? It's going to be tough to make it work, but we'll have to just wait and see in terms of the trade offers. I don't know. And in terms of guys who could replace him, you mentioned Michael Hage. I raise you Owen Beck as well, who has had a really solid start for Laval, who has started to pick up the pace a little bit over the last number of games, coming off a 2-point game. So there's a lot to talk about, but what do you think about the odds that Montreal trades Jake Evans? He is a free agent at the end of the season, and if Montreal doesn't plan to re-sign him, or if he doesn't plan to re-sign with Montreal, maybe you do go out and you move him. I mean, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we don't know, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, like always, and we really appreciate all your support. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.